If I'm asked to solve a quadratic equation, there's three different ways I can do it. One way is by using the quadratic formula, another way is by factoring, and another way is by graphing. Chances are you're going to get a bunch of questions asked to you in a different way, but they're all asking for the same thing. Different words that mean to solve a quadratic equation is that it's looking for either the solution, the zero, the root, or the x-intercept. Alright, so let's go through a couple examples of how you would even go about doing this. Alright, one way you can do it is by using the quadratic formula. If you are interested in watching that video, there's a whole another video just using the quadratic formula. So right now we're just going to focus on by factoring and by graphing. In your packet, if you turn to page 19 and take a look at number 2, it says to solve 8x equals x squared plus 15. Right now, the way that we're going to work on is to solve it by factoring. Alright, very first thing that has to happen is your entire equation has to equal 0. So that means I have to get 8x to the other side. So we're going to subtract 8x on both sides. So 8x minus 8x is 0. So now I have 0 equals x squared minus 8x plus 15. And the reason why I went ahead and put my negative 8x in the middle is because when I go in and factor it, you always want to have your x squared term first, then your x term, and then your constant term. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to go in and factor this. And again, to factor this trinomial, I need to know what is it that multiplies to positive 15 but adds to negative 8. So there's a bunch of things that multiply to positive 15. But since I'm multiplying to a positive and adding to a negative, I know my two factors have to be negative. So I could try negative 15 times negative 1, but negative 15 minus 1 gives me negative 16, not this negative 8 that I need. But then I have two factors of positive 15 are x minus 5 and x minus 3, and my negative 5 times negative 3 gives me positive 15, negative 5 plus negative 3 gives me negative 8. So that means I'm going to have 0 equals x minus 5 times x minus 3. Now I'm not done. I have to go in and I have to solve this. So what I have to do is I have to take each binomial and set it equal to 0. So I say x minus 5 equals 0. So add 5 to both sides. So x equals 5. But I also have to set x minus 3 equal to 0. So to get x by itself, I have to add 3 to both sides. So I get x equals 3. So that means that my two solutions are that x equals 5 and that x equals 3. Alright, also what I can do is I can solve a quadratic equation by graphing. So again, your question might say, find the solutions to this equation, or find the solutions to this graph, or what are the roots of this function, or identify the x-intercepts of this quadratic equation. All of those questions mean the same thing. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for the x-intercept. So if I'm trying to find a solution, I'm trying to find the x-intercept. And again, the x-intercept is where your graph crosses the x-axis. So this parabola obviously crosses the x-axis here and crosses the x-axis here. So that means my solutions are going to be negative 2 and negative 6. Alright, now this question, number 3, also asks for the vertex. Here the vertex is the lowest point, and when it's a low point we call that the minimum value. Alright, and my vertex here is the ordered pair, negative 4, negative 4. Alright, go ahead and turn to page 21, number 7. I'm kind of changing this question up a little bit just so you get more familiar with the different ways your questions are going to get asked. Let's say it said, identify the roots of f of x equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. The key word in here is this word root. Again, root means the same thing as a solution or a 0 or an x-intercept. So you want to think graphically. If I want to find a root, I want to find the x-intercept. The x-intercept is where a graph crosses the x-axis. Alright, one thing you also want to keep in mind is that this f of x, remember this is function notation, f of x equals is the same thing as saying y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. So a shortcut here is to take this quadratic equation and plug it into the y equals on your calculator. And you're going to plug in y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8, and you're going to hit graph. And when you graph it, this is what your calculator is going to show you. Alright, and when you look at this graph, what you notice are the points at which this parabola crosses the x-axis. This parabola crosses the x-axis at 4. It also crosses the x-axis at -2. So that means that my roots are going to be the values in -2 and 4. And also make sure you remember solution set notation, which is using these squiggly brackets.